हेलो स्टूडेंट्स, वेलकम टू माय चैनल ओमनी ज्ञान। मेरे चैनल ओमनी ज्ञान में आप सब लोगों का फिर से बहुत बहुत स्वागत है। सो टुडे वी आर गोइंग टू लर्न द स्टोरी बर्थ बाय A.J. Cronin, which is in the English syllabus for class 11, both MBOSE and CBSE. And as usual, I'm going to do the full explanation here in this video. And this is the last lesson which is left from my side, because I have already explained all the other stories, poems, and there's a play also that I have explained. So I have completed the entire syllabus of class 11. This is the last one left. Okay. So without any further delay, let us start the explanation of the story birth. Now let us first have a very quick introduction of the story birth. Okay. So there is a character called Andrew Manson who has just finished his medical studies, his medical school. Okay. He has started working as an assistant to Dr. Edward Page. Okay, so he is working under Dr. Edward Page as an assistant. Okay, as a practitioner under Dr. Edward Page. Okay, he is working, that is Andrew is working in a small Welsh mining town called Blenheim. Okay, so he's working in which place? The name of the place? It's a small Welsh mining town and the name of the place is called Blenheim. Okay. What happens is that one evening, Andrew feels disappointed after meeting Christine, the girl he loves, that is his girlfriend. Okay. So one evening, he went on a date with his girlfriend, Christine. But after the date, Andrew does not feel happy. Andrew does not feel very good. He's disappointed after the date, after the meeting with Christine, his girlfriend. The reason for this disappointment, the reason for Andrew's sadness is not given in the story, and the story is nowhere related to this love kind of a thing. Okay, कहानी के साथ कोई love या कोई girlfriend boyfriend वाला चीज जो है ये नहीं है, तो it is not important also. Okay, but the writer A.J. Cronin just gave the small thing in the story. Okay. The small information in the story, it comes in the appears in the beginning before the story starts. Anyways, so while returning home after the date, while returning home, he meets a person called Joe Morgan. Okay, so when he was coming back home after the date, he meets one man called Joe Morgan. Okay, now Joe Morgan and his wife have been married for almost 20 years. Now, this is very important to know one thing, okay? Anyways, let's first see this, okay? So, Joe Morgan and his wife, they have been married for 20 years. 20 साल हो चुका था उनकी शादी के, but they did not have any child, okay? उनका कोई child नहीं था, उनका कोई baby नहीं था. So, they were expecting their first child. So, this time, after 20 years, they were expecting their first child. So you can easily wonder how excited, nervous Joe Morgan is, and equally his wife also, that after 20 years, they were expecting their first child. Okay? Now the story is all about this only. Now we come to the full summary of the story. तो हम जो है पूरा कहानी अभी हम समझते हैं, the entire summary page by page. So Andrew was coming back home after a date with his girlfriend Christine. This I already told you. And when he reached his house, outside his house, he saw Joe Morgan waiting for him. ठीक है? जब वो उसके घर के सामने आया, when he reached his house, he saw this Joe Morgan who was waiting for Andrew, because Andrew was a doctor, right? It was almost midnight. So generally we say evening, right? Even when we meet somebody, we say evening, and when we leave that person, we say good night. Okay, right? So it was almost midnight. So a very late night date, Andrew had gone. Okay, so it was almost midnight. Joe told Andrew that his wife was about to give birth. So his wife was pregnant and his wife was about to give birth, and that is why Joe came to Andrew, because Andrew is a doctor. Okay. Now, Andrew quickly came out of his sad and dark thoughts. So Andrew was not happy with the date with his girlfriend Christine. So Andrew was, Andrew kept on thinking about the disappointing meeting, about the disappointing date, about the sad date. Okay, whatever the reason is not given in the story, as I already told you. So he was, very sad, and he was thinking, all his thoughts revolved around his girlfriend Christine only. So he suddenly came out of his sadness. He suddenly came out of his dark thoughts when Joe informed Andrew that his wife was about to give birth. So immediately, see, he was tired also, he was sad also, he was disappointed also, Andrew. But still, you see, it is, as a doctor, it is his duty that whenever there is a medical emergency, it is the duty of a doctor to attend to that person, right? So he immediately took his medical bag and went with Joe to his house. तो वो जो है रात के 12 बजा, right? It was to midnight, but still, you see, he was tired also, sad also, but still, Andrew took his medical bag and he went with Joe to Joe's house. तो वो Joe के घर पे गया उसके wife को देखने के लिए. When they reached, Joe said he would not go inside. So when they reached, Joe's house, Joe said, the husband said that, no, I will not enter the house because I'm nervous. Right, because he's nervous, and after 20 years, it's their first child that they were expecting. So Joe was nervous also. That is why, possibly out of nervousness, Joe said that I will not enter the house. Andrew, Dr. Andrew, please you go. Okay. So Andrew noticed that Joe looked very worried and stressed. So obviously, Joe was looking very worried and stressed because his wife was about to give birth to a child after 20 years. So Joe was inside, he was worried, stressed, highly tensed, because anything might happen. If something goes wrong, then they will lose their first child also. All these thoughts were going on in Joe's mind, right? So anyways, Andrew was taken to the small bedroom. So Joe waited outside his house. Joe did not enter his own house. He waited outside. Andrew went in, and then Andrew was taken to a small bedroom where Mrs. Morgan, that is Joe's wife, was kept. Joe's wife, that is Mrs. Morgan, okay, we will call her Mrs. Morgan. Joe's wife, Mrs. Morgan, was lying on the bed. She was about to give birth to a child, okay, and Andrew is the doctor who is going to do that, who is going to operate, right? Then, her mother, that is Mrs. Morgan's mother, was there, and there was an elderly midwife. Now, who is a midwife here? Midwife is not Joe's wife, okay? Midwife का मतलब ये नहीं कि वो Joe की आधा wife है. No, midwife is generally midwives are elderly women who are actually kind of servants, okay, but elderly servants, and whose job is to stay with that woman who was going to give birth. हम लोग इसको हिंदी में कहते हैं दाई माँ. ठीक है, इसको हिंदी में कहा जाता है दाई माँ, right? And in English it is called midwife, a woman who stays, an elderly woman, an old woman, generally an old woman who stays with a pregnant wife who was about to give birth, because during the birth there are many things which needed to be arranged, okay, which are needed to be arranged, and that is done by the midwife. So her mother, that is Mrs. Morgan's mother, and this midwife also were present in the room. Mrs. Morgan's mother was an old but very wise woman. Okay, Mrs. Morgan की जो माँ है वो old है but बहुत wise, intelligent women है. She understood that the situation was serious because after 20 years, Mrs. Morgan was giving birth to their first child. So definitely there could be complicated situations, complicated medical situations, and immediately Mrs. Morgan's mother understood that situation was going to be serious. And she requested Andrew. She did not wanted the doctor, that is Andrew. She did not wanted Andrew to leave at any time. So until the baby is born, until the baby, is born successfully, and even after post-delivery also, after the delivery, after the baby is born, whether the baby is, medically well, that also needs to be ensured by the doctor. That is why she requested Andrew not to leave at any time. Okay, she wanted Andrew to stay there. Then she offered Andrew some tea. So Mrs. Morgan's mother offered Andrew some tea. Andrew understood that the case needed his full attention. So let me tell you first of all, students, that Andrew is a very fresh student who has passed his medical school. He is not an experienced doctor. At the introduction of itself, I told you that he is working under Edward Page, and that means what? He is not an independent doctor yet, and he is a very fresh medical practitioner. He is a very fresh doctor. Maybe this is his first case that he is attending. So Andrew immediately understood that the case needed his full attention. So he will try to give his 100% so that the delivery is successful. Okay. And he also told Mrs. Morgan's mother that don't worry, I will stay. So he decided to stay in the house until everything was over successfully. Okay. Andrew drank the tea downstairs. So Andrew came down. He drank the tea downstairs. He did not drink the tea in Mrs. Morgan's room. Rather, he came downstairs. He drank the tea there. And after 1 hour, he went to check on Mrs. Morgan. Okay, because you see that because the midwife was already present there, Andrew decided to stay in case if there was any medical emergency. Otherwise, there is a midwife, who would be doing the delivery process. So after 1 hour, he waited downstairs, and after 1 hour, he again went to Mrs. Morgan's room to check on Mrs. Morgan. And during the long wait, now when he was waiting downstairs for 1 hour, during that waiting period, he kept thinking about his own marriage. You see, his thoughts about marriage were not very happy. Now, let's take these 2 points. Okay. Now, when he was waiting downstairs after drinking tea, he waited for 1 hour downstairs. Right. And during this 1 hour, he kept thinking about Christine only, because his date was not successful with Christine. He was disappointed and sad. That is why he kept thinking about his own marriage, whether his marriage with Christine would be successful in future or not. And then actually his thoughts about marriage were not happy. तो शादी के बारे में वो उसके बहुत अच्छे ख्याल नहीं है. वो सोचता है कि most marriages are unsuccessful, and that is surely going to happen with me eventually after the unsuccessful date with Christine, my girlfriend. Okay, so he kept thinking about that. Anyways, but then he remembered famous people like Bramwell and Edward Page, okay, who had bad experiences in marriage. So he started comparing other people, whether they are successful or they were successful in marriage or not. Like there is a very famous person called Bramwell, then his own boss under whom he was working as a medical practitioner, Edward Page. Okay, they were completely unsuccessful in marriage, and they, after getting married, they were having very bad experience in marriage. तो इन दोनों का जो है marriage experience इतना अच्छा नहीं है. That is why even Andrew also thought that marriages are not very healthy. ठीक है? But then he forced himself to believe that no, there are other people in the world also who get married and who are happy also. So he forced himself to believe, he wanted to believe that marriage was full of happiness, because it is only Bramwell and Edward Page who were not happy with their marriage, right? But there are other people in this world. Take the example of Mr. and Mrs. Morgan. They are so happy, right? So there are other people also in this world who are happy. So I wanted to believe, Andrew wanted to believe that marriages are full of happiness. Okay, with 1-2 examples, it cannot be decided that marriages are, not happier. Okay, so he also kept thinking about his own girlfriend Christine. I just told you that he kept thinking about his own marriage. He kept thinking about his own girlfriend Christine. Whether in future, if I marry Christine, then will we remain happy or not? So he started thinking about all these things. Anyways, while he was lost in his thoughts, Mrs. Morgan's mother came in. So he was thinking for 1 hour, he was sitting downstairs, he was thinking all these things, okay? And suddenly Mrs. Morgan's mother came to call him. Dr. Andrew, please come up. Now, Andrew went up. She told Andrew that Susan, that is Mrs. Morgan's name is actually Susan, okay? So she told Andrew that Susan, that is Mrs. Morgan, did not want to be given anesthetic. Anesthetic is type of chloroform that is given before the delivery so that the mother does not feel the pain. The woman who is going to give birth remains unconscious, senseless, and that becomes easier for the doctor to do the delivery process. Okay, so and Mrs. Morgan's mother, that is Susan's mother, okay, so Mrs. Morgan's mother told Andrew that actually Susan, that is Mrs. Morgan, does not want to take chloroform. Okay, she wants a normal delivery. But Andrew explained to her mother that the anesthetic was safe and would not cause any harm. So Dr. Andrew explained Mrs. Morgan's mother that don't worry, anesthetic is completely safe and she need not worry. It will not cause any harm to Mrs. Morgan. So let me give the anesthetic. She will not feel the pain. Okay, and the delivery process will be smooth. Next, at 3 a.m., okay, it was almost morning only. At 3:30, the midwife called Andrew. So the anesthetic was given. And at 3 a.m., again, after giving the anesthetic, Dr. Andrew came out. So at 3 a.m., the midwife called Andrew. Okay. And Andrew decided to begin the delivery process. Okay. So the delivery process was not complete, let me tell you. Okay. Because the midwife needed the help of Andrew, definitely. Okay. So at 3 a.m., the midwife called Andrew that let's begin the delivery process, and Andrew decided to start the delivery process. The labor, that is the delivery process, lasted for about 1 hour. So, 1 ghante tak, for 1 hour, the delivery was going on. At dawn, the baby was born, but it was stillborn. That means it did not move. Generally, when babies are born, it gives a cry. जब बच्चा जब जन्म होता है तो बच्चा जो है वो रोता है. तो it was not moving. It was stillborn. It was not moving. There was no movement. It was not crying also. Okay, there was no movement. The baby was static without any movement, as if the baby was dead. To explain in one word, it seemed the baby was dead. Okay, so everybody in the house got shocked and nervous. So Andrew also at the same time, because it could be his first case. So Andrew also felt very shocked and frightened. Mrs. Morgan was now very weak. After 1 hour of labor, the delivery process, the mother who gave birth to the baby also was very weak. So there was now 2 problems, and Andrew had to solve both. Now, any doctor would get nervous. Any inexperienced doctor in this situation would get nervous. Andrew did not know whom to help first. He also got less nervous. Okay. So Andrew did not know whom to help first, whether to help Mrs. Morgan, who had become so weak that Andrew needed to attend her also. And the baby was stillborn. Andrew needed to attend the baby also, so that the baby moves, so that the baby shows movement. He followed his instincts and gave the baby to the nurse. So Andrew followed his instincts. That means he followed his studies, his heart, and then he thought that no, the first help is to be given first to the mother. So he gave the baby first to the nurse. तो पहले उसने बेबी को नर्स के हाथ में दिया. ठीक है. And then the first person he attended to was Mrs. Morgan. So he injected medicine into Mrs. Morgan to save her first. ये बहुत important है कि माँ को बचाना सबसे ज़रूरी है सबसे पहले. ठीक है. It is very important to save the mother first. So Andrew injected medicine into Mrs. Morgan first to save her. And he worked very hard to revive her weak body. So Mrs. Morgan had become very weak, and this medicine that was injected into her body was so that she could revive from her weakness. And after a few minutes, Mrs. Morgan became stable. So after a few minutes, Mrs. Morgan became quite okay. Now, when Mrs. Morgan was okay, Andrew now decided to attend to the baby. So Andrew ने अभी decide किया कि now because Mrs. Morgan is okay, now let me attend to the baby. Now the baby is important. The midwife had hidden the baby boy under the bed. So बिस्तर के नीचे रखा था midwife ने इस baby को, so that the baby does not feel cold. Okay, because it was dawn time. It was cold also. So the midwife had hidden the baby under the bed. Andrew picked up the baby wrapped in newspapers. तो newspapers में baby को wrap किया. He wrapped the baby in the newspapers and he picked the baby up. The baby's body was soft and lifeless. Lifeless का एक word अगर मैं कहूँ, if I say in one word, it is dead. So the baby's body was very soft and lifeless, dead. The baby was not moving. His head, the baby's head, hung loosely and his arms and legs were limp, very weak, very thin. Alright. So the baby was hanging his head loosely and his arms, the baby's arms and baby's legs were very weak, very thin, very limp. Okay. Now this is the, here the expertise of Dr. Andrew is going to work. He is inexperienced, but he has completed his medical studies. Now his medical knowledge, whether he will be successful or not, whether the baby will die or not, entirely depends on the expertise as a doctor. Okay, so Dr. Andrew is going to do what? You can see that. So Andrew carefully thought about the baby's condition. So first of all, Andrew observed the baby's body and he carefully thought about the baby's physical condition. And then he suddenly remembered a similar case he had seen at the Samaritan Hospital. So there's a hospital called Samaritan Hospital, and Andrew suddenly remembered, oh, there was a similar case in that hospital also where the baby was born, but the baby was not moving. Then what did the doctor do there? The doctor ने वहाँ पे क्या-क्या चीजें किया था? What are the things that the doctor had done there? He suddenly remembered, recalled all those things, and he started acting very quickly. All the things he remembered. He had observed the delivery with his own eyes in that Samaritan hospital. So now he started doing exactly in that same process. So acting quickly, he asked the midwife to bring basins of hot and cold water. So he quickly told the midwife that go and bring me both hot and cold water and bring in a basin. Okay, tumbler, basin. And he prepared 2 basins. तो उसने 2 basins prepare किया. He prepared 2 basins, one with cold water and one with hot water that his hands could tolerate. So it's not too much hot, but hot so that Andrew's hands can tolerate it. Okay. Then he dipped the baby alternately into the cold and hot water. तो पहले baby को cold water में dip किया. First he dipped the baby in the cold water. Then he dipped the baby in the hot water. Now, Mrs. Morgan's mother was very nervous and shocked. Hey, what is this doctor doing? Is he mad? Mrs. Morgan's mother and the midwife watched him. Even Mrs. Morgan was awake. The mother who just gave birth to a child after 20 years, first child, after 20 years, became very nervous. And, mother became very nervous. Midwife became nervous and watched him in complete shock and confusion. Okay, I'm sorry, it was not Mrs. Morgan, Mrs. Morgan's mother and midwife. They watched him in complete shock and confusion that what the hell is this doctor doing? Okay, he's going to kill the baby or what? At first, there was no change in the baby's condition. Even after dipping the baby in the cold and hot water, there was no change. There was no recovery in the baby's condition. Now the midwife felt very bad and begged him to stop. So the midwife came to Dr. Andrew and told him, please doctor, please stop, please stop. But Dr. Andrew did not listen to her. And he made one last attempt by pressing the baby's small chest to help him breathe. So now, even after dipping the baby in the hot and cold water, the baby did not make any move. The baby did not make any movement. He decided to make Dr. Andrew decided to make one last attempt by pressing the baby's chest to help him breathe. Right? At last, a miracle happened and the baby came back to life. So finally, that miracle happened, and with the pressing of the chest, the tiny chest of the baby, the soft chest of the baby, suddenly the baby started breathing. The baby came to life, it started breathing, and a bubble of mucus is a fluid, okay? Fluid came out from one tiny nostril. So baby के जो nostril से है, from the nostril of the baby, from the nose of the baby, a bubble of mucus came out. The midwife cried uncontrollably while Mrs. Morgan prayed silently. So Mrs. Morgan was praying silently. She was nervous, but the midwife started crying uncontrollably, looking at the miracle that happened. And by this time, Andrew was also very weak. He was both mentally and physically weak. Mentally because of his unsuccessful date with Christine, and physically because he came home, and right from there only he came to Joe's house, and for the last 4 or 5 hours or maybe a little more, he had been there doing all the hard work so that the baby is saved, the mother, Mrs. Morgan, is saved. Okay, so Andrew also felt very weak. Exhausted, Andrew put on his jacket and left the room, saying he would return later for his bag. So Andrew जो है वो बहुत जल्दी में, he was very tired, extremely tired. So he put on his jacket quickly and he left the room, and he told that I will take my bag, my medical bag later. Let my bag be here. I have to go home right now. Okay. He drank some water in the scullery and then went outside. So उसने जो है थोड़ा पानी पिया scullery से, and then he went outside. Scullery is what? A small kitchen or room at the back of a house used for washing dishes and other dirty household work. ठीक है? This is scullery. From the scullery, he drank water and he left. He went outside. Now, outside, who was there? Outside, Joe was still sitting. So he found Joe sitting there looking very tense. तो उसने Joe को बाहर देखा, बहुत ही टेंशन में था. Andrew assured Joe that both the baby and the mother were safe. तो Andrew ने Joe को inform किया. Andrew informed Joe that don't worry Joe, your wife and your baby both are safe. Don't worry, don't take tension. You can go in now. Okay. As Andrew walked down the street with the miners, he felt proud that he had finally done something truly meaningful. So Andrew जो है वो इतना खुश हुआ कि for the first time, it was possibly his first case, and for the first time, see, though his date with Christine was unsuccessful, he was mentally very down. But you see, after this delivery was done successfully, he saved 2 lives, Mrs. Morgan's life and the baby's life. You see, and it was a miracle that had happened. So as Andrew walked down the street, he felt so proud of himself that he thanked God, and he finally felt proud that I have done something which is truly, truly meaningful. I have saved 2 people, and that is a wonderful thing. Thank you, God. He thanked God, and then he went home, and then the story ends here. So it is the doctor's, duty sense that helped 2 life. It is the doctor's hard work, his medical knowledge, his quick presence of mind that saved 2 lives, Mrs. Morgan's and the babies. And he brought so much happiness to the Morgan family. You can imagine, okay? So here is where the story ends. For paid notes, you can comment here also in the comment box, or you can DM me on Instagram or mail at omnigyan538@gmail.com. Please subscribe to the channel, like and share my videos. That's all from me for today. Thank you so much for watching the video. All the important links are given in the description box also. You can go and watch it out from there also. Okay, check it out from there also. Anyways, with love from Omni Gyan and all the best to all of you. Thank you so much.